Did you know when the second officer, Reichenbach, arrived on the scene, he wasn't handed the note either? That's because French, finding the note on the floor to his credit, left it there as well. But who could imagine such a thing? There's a ransom note and no one is holding it. No one is picking it up. And no one is handing it to anyone.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. In this analysis, we are going to look at a few things the cops noticed when they were inside the Ramsey home. Reichenbach also went into the basement and he actually pulled on the wine cellar door. Now, according to Kolar's account, while French remained with the parents, Reichenbach conducted an interior inspection of all 3 floors of the home, including the basement. And he did not notice any credible point of entry that drew his attention. Now, you'd think if there was a broken window that he would feel the cold down there and that he would just notice that the window was broken. To his credit, he actually went right up to the wine cellar door. He noticed that it was secured at the top by a block of wood that pivoted on a screw. And then it's incredible, Reichenbach tried to open the door. Let's have a look at the Fox special reenactment of this moment.
Sir, do you have any idea who could have done this?
I haven't.
The housekeeper asked for money recently. She has money problems.
Yes, she would be the only one I could think of right off.
So that is Officer French upstairs asking the Ramseys who they would consider as suspects. Reichenbach finds Burke asleep. Going back to Kolar's book, during Reichenbach's inspection of the second floor, he observed that the door to Burke's bedroom was open and the lights were off. So already the fact that Burke's bedroom door is open means that he could have heard what was going on at that point. He moved quietly into the room and Burke appeared to be asleep beneath the covers of his bed. Now, I think one thing that's missing from that description is that he had a flashlight with him, Reichenbach, unless I'm mistaking that with French. But as far as I remember, Reichenbach was the only officer to go into Burke's room. And so then he exited. Reichenbach closed the door nearly all the way to prevent downstairs noise from awakening the boy. This is actually kind of incredible. I mean, one of the craziest things about the kidnapping phase is Burke. He's in bed, cops are stampeding inside and outside. Just when you listen to the dramatization, you get a sense of the noise and the movement going on in the house. And remember, it's an old house. I think it had wooden floors in places as well. Victim advocates are there, there's a pastor there, the Whites are there, the Fernies are there, but he simply stays in bed, apparently asleep. Doesn't he know that they're supposed to be going to Michigan that morning? Doesn't he ask whether they're still going to Michigan that morning? And of course, the story is not only that Burke is sleeping, but he slept through everything, so he doesn't know anything, and so don't talk to him.
And your son, was he in bed all night?
Yes, he slept right through it. He's still sleeping.
Now, if you think about the Ramsey's narrative, JONBENET arrives home asleep and they put her into bed and she's asleep, and it later turns out that she seemed to have gotten up to eat pineapple. There's also the narrative that Burke was asleep, but then it turns out later on that don't they hear his voice on the 911 call. So one's got to wonder whether the kids were asleep narrative for both children is a little hinky in itself. John and Patsy don't seem to question Burke either. So what you see in this dramatization is Patsy finds the note, goes to JONBENET's room, goes to Burke's room, just opens the door, doesn't say anything to Burke, goes back out again. Now, to make matters worse, the cops enter the room, Burke's room. They don't speak to Burke either. They don't ask Burke anything. And then to top it all off, the officer closes the door to allow the little prince to complete his beauty sleep. Now, I just want to note one other observation from Kolar. He says French rechecked JonBenet's bedroom with John Ramsey, and he noted that the bedding had been pulled back as though one would be getting in or out of bed. There's no sign of a struggle in the room and no sign of forced entry. Frost, snow, and only my footprints. Now think about this. Reichenbach enters the home, finds the note, reads the note, responds to the note. He's quite systematic. He shows attention to detail. He's thinking critically. He searches inside the house. He finds nothing. He goes to the door, notices it's got that sort of thing on it, that latch. Then he searches outside and he's thinking maybe there's going to be some obvious tracks showing where the intruder went in because he couldn't find anything inside. So maybe there's something obvious outside. He's looking for some clue, some sign of an intruder. And what is he doing? He's looking at the grass, the frost, the snow, the moisture in the driveway. But everything looks pristine. For point number 7, let's go to Kolar's account. Following the walkthrough of the home, Reichenbach then conducted a cursory search of the exterior and observed frost on the grass and a little bit of snowfall. That's a quote, I think, from his report. On exposed areas of the lawn. He also noticed that no one other than himself had walked through these areas. Reichenbach noted that no snow had adhered to the rear patio and walkways. The driveway was wet, but no footprints or tracks were visible, and he observed no fresh signs of forced entry. Meanwhile, here's Ramsey heavyweight lawyer Hal Haddon adamant that there was no snow and no footprints.
I got in a big fight with a bunch of Irish lawyers about a year ago about the Ramsey case, and they kept saying, well, they must have done it. One of them must have done it because there were no footprints in the snow. And I'm just tearing my hair. I'm saying, there was no fresh snow. There were hundreds of footprints. Oh, no. We know that there were no footprints in the fresh snow. That stuff is indelible in that case. And so while I do say that in my life experience with jurors, they don't remember specific facts, in that case, they remember that video, and they think they remember that there were no footprints in the fresh snow. And it's not anything we could get rid of. We could and have screamed it to the heavens, and it's just there.
See, now, if you're still watching, if you've had a good attention span here, you would have caught this nugget of information. And that's, again, why it makes sense to stick with me.
With me, it's here. Without me, here. With me, without me. With me, without me.
So think about this. What is the big giveaway that Reichenbach's observations are legitimate? What's the fact that he's able to see his own footprints, signs of his own movement outside on the walkways and through the garden, and he doesn't see the footprints of anybody else. Why did Patsy hang up during the 911 call?
Oh my God, please.
Okay, well,
There's somebody.
I am, honey.
Please.
Take a deep breath.
Please,
Okay.
hurry.
Patsy, 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 Patsy.
Now, Kolar makes a fantastic observation here. After becoming overcome during the 911 call, Patsy suddenly recovers and makes 2 more phone calls. And what is the theme about these phone calls? It's hurry, 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 right? Let's have a look at Kolar's account. After hanging up on the 911 dispatcher, Patsy Ramsey found the composure to make 2 additional calls. Family friends John and Barbara Fernie, as well as Fleet and Priscilla White, were hurriedly summoned to the home. Now, one of the reasons why they didn't go to John and Barbara Fernie the night before was they felt, well, it was too far away to drive and they had to be up early the next morning. Well, now suddenly they aren't too far away to be summoned. Now, again, if the theme of the whole thing is we need someone here very soon, hurry, 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 then out of all the Ramsey friends, it would have made the most sense to call the Steins. After all, they were the Ramsey friends who lived closest to them, practically walking distance, no doubt bicycling distance as well. The YouTuber Cotton Star Manifesto actually drove that route. It took him 80 seconds to get from the Stein home to the Ramsey home. So isn't there something hinky about that? There is also something else hinky about all of this, and it's the contradictory account that John said he awakened Burke. If you think about it, isn't it really strange if Burke is only awakened because some other dad, not John, basically feels it's necessary to wake Burke up? And it also seems to be Fleet's idea to get Burke to safety, to take him to his home, whereas the Ramseys seem to think it's fine if Burke just stays in his room and lays low while they deal with that situation downstairs. In this regard, Kolar writes, reports are in conflict as to whether or not White accompanied John Ramsey to awaken Burke. Ramsey reports that he alone awakened Burke and told him to get dressed and that his sister was missing. French made an attempt at an interview before Burke left the home, but was told that the boy had been asleep throughout the entire event and had no information to offer officers. And later, of course, there would be some questions regarding that. The other thing I want to highlight from this is that Burke grabbed his Nintendo game. That's what he's thinking about. That is what he gravitates towards first thing in the morning. And so the question arises, couldn't he have been thinking about that, playing with that, the last thing at night, Christmas night as well? Finally, and we saw this in the Chris Watts case as well, we saw this with Madeleine McCann's parents as well, who searches for someone without calling their name? In this section dealing with the immediate aftermath, Kolar writes that Fleet White is the only person of record who called out JonBenet's name as he searched the home that morning. Big wow. And so think about that as well. Fleet going through the house, calling JonBenet's name. Didn't Burke hear that either? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.